Hey guys, welcome back to another installment of Thanksgiving with Hasty Vegan. So that's me, I'm Shayla Hastings. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and thanks for tuning in to this week. Every day this week, I am posting a recipe to help you navigate this Thanksgiving holiday. Today's recipe is a really long title. I'm actually just gonna read it, but it's a hash. So it's roasted Brussels sprouts, cinnamon butternut squash with pecan and cranberries. So I'm kind of coining it the Brussels sprout and butternut squash hash. So that's what I'll title this video. This is actually my sister-in-law's favorite recipe. Every single year since I first made it, she has requested it. She's like, make that Brussels sprout thing, or make that squash thing. And I know exactly what she's talking about. Actually, she's requested it for this Thanksgiving when I see her again. So with that, I wanted to share it with you guys so that way you guys can enjoy it as well. It's really simple, really quick, and let's get started. Alright guys, so the first ingredient that we want to tackle in our hash is our Brussels sprouts. So I get a bag of Brussels sprouts at Whole Foods. You can get Brussels sprouts anywhere, Walmart, etc. And it doesn't look like a lot. However, once you cut this in half, it'll become a lot. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take these out of the bag, cut them in half, and then I'm going to put them in the bowl. Alright, so we're done cutting our Brussels sprouts. Just a note, any leaves that do end up separating, I do keep them in because that adds for a little bit of extra crunch. Also, we have different sizes, so we have some large ones, we have some small ones. Of course, the smaller ones are going to cook quicker and they're going to be a little bit more crunchy. I like that. I like the texture that gives once it's all mixed up. All right, so what we need to do now with our Brussels sprouts, pretty simple, is we need to put 2 tablespoons of olive oil and then salt to taste, and then toss it. So I'm going to go ahead and put our olive oil, and then I'm going to pour some salt, and then we're going to toss it. So what makes this quick, right? So this channel is about being hasty. What makes this recipe quick is if you can do it in one pan. Now, if you're making for a lot of people, it's gonna take a little longer because you're gonna need 2 pans. And unless you can fit them all in the oven at the same time. So both our Brussels sprouts and our butternut squash are gonna go in the oven. If I'm going to put them on one pan, and it's going to go in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. That's it. Now, if you need more than one pan, or you can't fit 2 pans in the oven at the same time, of course, it's going to double that time. Still pretty simple, pretty easy, but as far as your timing goes, it's going to be a little later. So I'm going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees. I'm going to toss this, put it on the pan, and then we're going to go to our butternut squash. One note about the Brussels sprouts is that they do need to go face down, so the cut side down. And then about halfway through the timing, we're gonna flip them. All right, for our butternut squash, I went ahead and bought them pre-cut. That does take some time if you buy a butternut squash fresh at the market, and then you peel it, and then you have to cut it, cube it, seed it, all that stuff. It does take time. I don't actually think it's too much cheaper than if you buy it like Walmart. You can get it pre-cut at Walmart at a really decent price. Whole Foods was what was close, and it is a little bit bigger. So Walmart has small, like really tiny diced butternut squash. Whole Foods has the bigger chunks. It's a personal preference. Like I may cut some of these up if I think they're too big, depending on how it goes in the hash, excuse me. But otherwise, you know, it's up to you. It's your personal preference. This was a little bit more pricey, of course, than the Walmart. I'm going to go ahead and put these into the bowl. I'm going to put enough just to fill the bowl the same amount as the Brussels sprouts. That way I know that it'll fit on my pan and I can truly do a one pan here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is not only add olive oil to coat it, but we're going to season it with cinnamon, maple syrup, and the olive oil. So that's what we're going to do here. So you're going to have that savory with a little bit more of your sweet. So we have 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Pour that in. We have 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. So I'm gonna have to pour 1 more maple syrup. And then you have half a teaspoon of your cinnamon. And so then again, we're gonna mix it up, put it on the pan. And before I put it on the pan, I did wanna make a note about the pan. The recipe calls for it to be foiled and then lightly greased. So our oven's preheated. So let's go ahead and get this on the pan and get it in the oven. Y'all, doesn't that look pretty? So we've got our savory Brussels sprouts, look at them gleaming. And then we have our sweet cinnamony butternut squash. So I'm gonna put this in the oven, 400 degrees for 20 minutes. And at the 10-minute mark, I am gonna take it out to flip the Brussels sprouts. All right, so while that's in the oven, we wanna take care of our pecans. So the pecans are actually really simple. You don't do anything to them except roast them in the oven. So you have 2 options here. You can either wait until the end of the butternut squash and the Brussels sprouts, that 20 minutes, then put these in. Or you can do what I'm gonna do today just to speed up the process. And I'm going to pour my 2 cups of pecans on my parchment paper prepared pan, and I'm gonna stick it in now. However, whereas it only took 5 minutes with a 350, I need to watch this closely. So that is a forewarning. Don't just stick it in there for the same amount of time. It is 100 degrees higher. The original recipe called for the pecans to go in at 350 for 5 minutes. I'm putting it in at 400, excuse me, so that's only 50. So it is 50 degrees higher, which means it should be done quicker. And so we don't want our pecans to burn. They're too expensive for that, yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Y'all, isn't that pretty? We've got our cranberries, we've got our roasted pecans, our butternut squash, and our Brussels sprouts. And so I'm gonna mix this up so we can go ahead and plate it. All right, now it's time to taste test. See if I can get a combination bite in here. Let's see if I can get a little bit of the butternut squash, a Brussels, and a pecan all at once. Let's see if I can do that. All right, so a little bit of pecan. Y'all, I love roasted Brussels sprouts. That's so simple. It's another recipe. Don't even need a video for it. We just showed you how to roast some Brussels sprouts. So good. But then that is the savory, right? So you got the savory. Then you have a little bit of savory, I'd say, with the roasted pecan. There's no salt on it. Feel free to do that. Also, another way to make that quicker is to just buy some roasted pecans. Like, you don't have to do it yourself. You can buy it. I did not get sugar added cranberries, so there's a little bit of natural sweetness here. And of course, you do get the sweetness of the butternut squash. So I'm gonna take one more bite to see if there's anything I'm missing. Ultimately, it's just the balance of it all. It's the balance of that sweet and that savory, and each bite is completely different. Like I said, with the butternut squash being so big, you know, it's kind of one bite, unless you decide to cut it smaller. And it's up to you. It's up to you guys how you want it, what you want it to taste like. You know, you've got that savory, that cinnamony, that sweetness of the cranberries. So how do you want it? Do you want to get the smaller? That's what I'm trying to say. Do you want to get the smaller ones from Walmart? Do you want to get the bigger ones from Whole Foods? Do you want to buy it yourself and kind of do a combination? Each bite can be completely different. One a little bit more savory or sweeter than the other, but it's really good. So Morgan, this is for you. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this video, please go hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell. That way you get notified of more videos just like this. Also, today is just day 2 of Thanksgiving with Hasty Vegan. So stay tuned for the rest of this week's videos. Until next time.